In 1974, Jack and Janet Smurl, along with their 4 children, moved into a quiet duplex in West Pittston, Pennsylvania. It was a nice neighborhood. Nothing had ever happened there before. But within weeks of the family moving in, things started to go bump in the night. The lights began flickering, foul odors filled the rooms, and unexplained thumps echoed through the walls. Moving into a new house is stressful enough without having to worry about ghosts or other interdimensional creepy crawlies. But that is just a sampling of the paranormal events that would eventually lead to one of the most intense and controversial haunted house cases in history, Smurl Haunting. Shadowy figures moving through rooms, deep growling voices, the sound of footsteps, full-bodied apparitions that moved closer and closer. Many claimed that the haunting was a hoax perpetrated by the family for attention or perhaps financial gain. Others believed that if the haunting was real, the family was suffering from psychological trauma, perhaps brought on by mass hysteria. To this day, believers and skeptics argue about the case, which remains one of the most hotly debated paranormal mysteries of the modern era. But more overt signs of paranormal activity made their presence known. One evening, Janet was sitting in her bedroom when she saw a shadowy figure moving through the room. She described it as a dark, amorphous shape, like a big black cloud. Then it vanished. Was it a ghost? Maybe. After all, there was no physical evidence to support the family's claims. The family also reported seeing strange, floating black masses moving through the rooms. All of this was making them very uncomfortable, to say the least. Although the story has many holes, one thing is certain. The family was genuinely terrified by the events that transpired in their home. Perhaps we'll never know what really happened inside the Smurl home. But one thing is certain, believers and skeptics will continue to argue about it for years to come. The family called upon Ed and Lorraine Warren to perform exorcism with the priest from the local church. The Warrens claimed that the house was inhabited by 4 demonic entities since the construction in 1921. One of 4 was attached to Jack. After several attempts, they managed to bless the house and even perform an exorcism. For a while, it seemed to work. The activity ceased. But after the Warrens left, it began again, and this time it was worse. These accounts are the primary source for what we know about the haunting today. However, many skeptics claim that the haunting was a hoax. Lights flickered, the smell of brimstone filled the rooms, and unexplained thumps echoed through the walls. Author Hans Holzer, who investigated the case separately, believed that the family was suffering from psychological trauma, and that the haunting was a case of mass hysteria. What the heck was going on? This is the story of the Smurl Haunting, and none of the family members had any visible wounds to corroborate their stories of being touched by an invisible force. In 1991, the made-for-TV horror film The Haunted, starring a very young Peter O'Toole in an uncharacteristic dramatic role as Ed Warren, brought the story to a wider audience. There were times when Jack would be awoken in the middle of the night by the sensation of being manhandled by an invisible force. And though he never saw his assailant, he distinctly heard a voice saying, "Get out, get out." Their daughter even had her hair pulled by an invisible hand. The family dog would growl and bare its teeth at nothing. One day, the stove burst into flames, killing their pet birds. In addition to the subtle signs that something was amiss, the family soon began to witness more overt and terrifying phenomena. To make matters worse, the house seemed to have a personal vendetta against Jack. As the activity escalated, so did the terror felt by the family. Despite the doubters, the Smurls stood by their story. But what really happened inside the Smurl home? Are you a believer or a skeptic? Let us know your thoughts. At this point, the family decided enough was enough. They left the house and never looked back. Throughout the haunting, the Warrens kept meticulous notes and recorded audio messages from the family describing their experiences. Writer Brian Johnson, author of The Real Ghostbuster, The True Story of Ed and Lorraine Warren, and The Haunting of the Smurl Family, claims that much of the activity was staged by Jack Smurl with the help of his daughters, who were old enough to understand what was going on. So what really happened? While it's true that the Warrens had a knack for drumming up media attention, they also had a solid reputation within the paranormal community. What do you think happened at 237 Hill Street? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching. See you next time.